Welcome to Judy's Creations, October 21st, 2021. I want to start by thanking all of you for your support of my channel. I have just started a month ago, and already in 1 month, I am up over 60 subscribers. And I'm pretty pleased with that, and I think that is a pretty good number for this short time. And I've also received a number of comments from my viewers telling me how much they are enjoying what I'm offering and looking forward to more videos from me. So I really, really appreciate the support that you are all showing me. It makes me feel good about what I'm doing. So to start with, I want to talk about what am I wearing? Well, today I'm wearing a poncho, and it might look a little similar to some of you because we've been talking about virus shawls, and this is a virus poncho. And last week, for those that saw last week's video, I was wearing a sweater in a very pretty, sparkly purple yarn. And I mentioned that it also came in rose, and this is the rose color. They call it rose. And so once again, it is the Euro yarn made specially for Knit Crate. And it is 70% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 10% stellina. Now, I won't be able to put a link to this because I'm quite sure it's no longer available, at least not on Knit Crate. The only place you might find this yarn would be in a site that has destashing, like Ravelry. So here is the virus shawl. I'll show you a little more of it. Just like, sorry, this is the, I say that, virus poncho. I'm so used to the shawls. We did so many of them. I keep calling this a shawl, but it's a poncho. And the pattern is basically the same counts. Everything is the same. It's just that you join it front and back to make a poncho. And I especially made this to wear at Christmas, and then because of the COVID, we didn't get together at Christmas, but another time. Anyway, I think it's very soft. I really enjoy it. And the pattern, once again, is a tutorial that I got from Fiber Spider. To me, he does great tutorials. I don't know if there are others on this particular shawl, poncho. I'll get it right yet. But I will put a link down below to Fiber Spider's tutorial for this poncho. All right. Today we're going to talk about cocoons. Now, I was going to split my stash of cocoons into two and make two videos, two different times. And then I got thinking, cocoons aren't all that exciting. What is there to say about a cocoon? They're pretty much all the same, except you might use a different stitch from one to the other. So I thought instead I would talk about how I don't use a pattern, by the way. I've come up with my own little pattern recipe for a cocoon, and I thought I would talk about how that pattern evolved for me, and then quickly show you the various cocoons that I have and what yarn I used. The one thing I find when people are getting a cocoon or wanting a cocoon is they want a cocoon for something to take off the chill at night, to wrap around them, to keep them warm. And the pattern doesn't particularly matter to them. What matters is they have a nice cozy wrap and their color preference. I mean, the colors, the yarn you use can make a big difference, as you will see in the ones I'm going to show you. So talking about a whole bunch of different cocoon patterns isn't, I don't think, necessary. Now, for some of you that may not be familiar with a cocoon, I meant to have a piece of paper. Just a minute, let me get one. A cocoon some of the time you'll see is a square that they fold in half, but more often they use a rectangle like this sheet of paper, and they fold it in half. So you've got a long piece, like this, and then you, along these two sides, you stitch up part way and leave an opening, which becomes the sleeve. So then it opens this way and makes the cocoon. So it looks sort of like that. Now, the first pattern I saw was square. They actually did a granny square and then sewed it together. And I looked at it and I thought, well, that isn't going to stay on, I don't think. It's going to be so long and not wide enough. And of course, being somebody with long arms, it just didn't seem to be big enough to stay on. And I watched them. They wore it just sort of over their shoulders, like a shrug. They do call it a cocoon cardigan or a shrug. And if you want a shrug, then I guess that works. But for me, it didn't. So I made the first one that I made oblong like this. Well, it was a rectangle that I folded and became an oblong. And it was fine. It was a decent size. But I put it on. And for me, it was sliding off. And what I really wanted was for it to be able to come in close, like a sweater does, because it's called cocoon cardigan. But it just wouldn't. I mean, it would meet in the middle, but it wouldn't stay there. So over time, what I started to do, I started to think, okay, I need it wider. So I made it longer, wider this way. And it did help. It did come in better in the center, but it wouldn't stay. It kept falling apart and it became more of a shrug, and I wasn't comfortable with it. So I finally decided, when I was making a special order for someone, and having seen a couple online that had a band on it here, I thought, okay, how did they get in that band on it? And I went and I looked, and it seems that after you've made this and put it together, then it opens in this weird shape. Now it won't open. It opens in this weird shape that you could then go around the opening that you have here. The paper just does not want to cooperate. Okay, there we go. You could go around this opening and make a band on it. And I thought, okay, let's put a band on it. Let's see what that does. And in actual fact, when you put the band on it, you are bringing it in closer around your body, because putting more length on it this way wasn't doing that. It made it, in some cases, so long that it was, you felt like a little child in a huge granny's outfit, going off your arms, but not giving you anything more in the middle. So I found that after doing that, I didn't have to make it quite as long. And after doing that, I could go around this middle section, and I would not only give it length from here to the bottom at your butt, which was nice. Some people like them very long and droopy in the back, but it also put it in here. It added more. The sleeve comes down here. It added more into the middle section, which is what I wanted. So I had a friend / family member who ordered one, and I really, and she's big wide shoulders and big chested. I added a substantial band to it, and it really fit nice. Now, sometimes they put some extra around the sleeve hole, and you'll see some with very long sleeves if you want a long sleeve. Sometimes I will put a few rows just to put a little bit of a finished band on it. So what I'm going to show you today is my beginning ones, and I will tell you the yarn I used in each case. So the beginning ones are just my original, make it a rectangle, fold it, and hem it, seam it. And then I'll tell you and show you when I changed over and started putting the band on it, and I'll show it to you specifically. Now, this is one that is a very pretty color people like, and I'm not going to model them so you can see how they fit. They all fit the same, and I'm going to show you the one on the model in a minute, but she has one with a band on it. So this is the color I used. Very, very pretty, multicolored, and it is just your plain rectangle, and it is quite wide. So being wider gives you a little more in the front, but not as much as I wanted. And this yarn, very pretty, and I know I'll sell it without problems. Last year, I on Facebook in the marketplace, I put a listing of my cocoons, and I sold lots of cocoons for Christmas presents. Well, this particular yarn is one of the many colors that Hobie has in their cookie yarn. You can see I love this one. I keep saying I'm going to make it for myself, but I haven't had time yet. And this is 100% acrylic. So it's going to be washable. But I wouldn't throw it in the dryer. So 100% acrylic, and one cake has 656 yards. 2 cakes is ample enough to make one, especially now I need more because of the band I'm putting on it. And if you put some sleeve on it, you will need pretty much all of the 2 cakes. But if you're just making a straight one or a smaller one for a smaller person, you would not use the whole 2 cakes. I generally figure somewhere around 1,000 yards for a cocoon cardigan. So that's a cookie, and I guess it's the only one I have right now made in cookie, but I had one person like it so much, her mother ordered it, she ordered a second, and her mother ordered a bunch for gifts, and always in the cookie. They really like the different colors. So that's the first one. The next one is, again, very plain, nothing in the sleeves. Just what's really nice about this is it's made with a latte cake. And one day I'm going to do my favorite yarns, and I'll talk about that later. And latte is up at the top. I absolutely love latte cakes. They are, again, self-striping like most Caron cakes, like all Caron cakes. And you'll notice if you look at these, every single one is just done in plain double crochet. And this is really nice and snuggly, but I didn't do anything extra. Just a minute. I could be telling, no, it's just got the seam at the side and the armhole. That's it. Looks like I had to change yarn there. But I love the yarn, and it comes in lots of different colors. And so here's a Caron Latte Cake. You can get these only in Michael's. And it has 485 meters in a cake. That's 530 yards. So you can get one cocoon out of 2 cakes. And it is 58% acrylic and 42% nylon. So very, very snuggly and comfortable. And you can machine wash and dry this. Personally, I'd never machine wash anything that's handmade. I just wouldn't take the chance. But it says you can, so give it a try. So that's a latte cake. And it comes in so many different colors. Every year they come out with different colors. Haven't seen any new ones yet this year. Maybe they're not coming out with any. But extremely soft. So very snugly. And I have more than one of these, so I won't bring it out every time. I'll just say it's a latte cake. There you go. And that one, again, was made plain. The next one, um, hmm, it looks like it has a band on it, but I don't know. Oh, I know what happened here. Okay, this one again is your rectangular one. And it is, as you can see, a very, very pretty purple. Again, it's just made with double crochets. But when I was finished, I felt that I guess I was still working on this, trying to make something more in the middle. And I didn't feel it was wide enough. So I added a band at the side. You can see that it's going in the opposite direction. So I made a band at the side of the rectangle before I joined it together. And then I joined for the sleeves. It's very, very hard, I find, to join crochet at the ends of the rows. I find that it really pulls and it's not a nice join. But anyway, I just made it wider. So I put a band on it. I guess it made it look a little bit nicer with that design on the edges. But I still was using the old principle wide triangle. Now, the yarn that I used for this is Lion Brand's Scarfy. And I have another one in Scarfy later in the pile. And Scarfy is another one of my favorite yarns, and it comes in, I don't know, 15, 20 different colors they've have added to the color line. And I love the feel of it. It is very comfortable. Now, one of these has 312 yards, 285 meters, 312. So I definitely need 3 of these at least to make one. And if I'm making it a bigger or putting a sleeve in it, I would get a 4th one. Now, it is 78% acrylic, 22% wool. So some people might not like it because there is some wool in it, although it's definitely, to use a crystal term, scarfable. And I love the wide variety of colors. Now, this is washable, machine washable, lay flat to dry. Again, I wouldn't throw it in the washing machine, but that's personal choice. So Scarfy, that's what the purple one was, and I have another one in a minute made out of this yarn. Still the plain rectangle. Now, I think this is the last one made that way. Yes. Now, this one is very heavy. So somebody that's always very cold would enjoy this. It's navy. Hopefully you can see this navy tweed. And it was a yarn that I got at Michael's. It was a Loops and Thread brand. But I don't know if you've noticed this, but I particularly noticed that with Loops and Thread, they seem to come out with some nice new things late summer, early fall. And then when they're out, they're out. You don't get more of them. They don't continue them on from year to year, except for their Loops and Threads, I believe, does Impeccable, and Impeccable is a standard with them. But otherwise, the other ones, they come out for a season or part of a year, and then you can't get them again. So you can't get this again. I think I got it in another color, but only enough to make a cocoon in the navy. So it's very, very heavy. And this one I made very, very long. It stretches from my hand to my hand. So again, I was hoping by making it longer, I would make it fit around the middle better. And I mean, it is better by being a bit longer, but not the way I wanted it to be. So that is the end of the old method. So I want to show you, bring my model in here now. I think I'm closing in on a name, but I haven't for sure yet. And here she is. She's making, she's wearing another one in latte. And you'll notice remember as kids, we used to have these sweater clips. Well, I see they're back out again, so I ordered a few, and I thought, well, they're very perfect for something like this, or a shawl. They'd be great on a shawl to hold it. Now, she has much narrower shoulders than a human being. They tell you these are smaller than people, so it doesn't stay on real well, especially this real slippery latte. This is another latte cake. I'll show you the back so you can see the color. It's pinks and grays, sort of. Got a mauvey pink color in it. And this one has the band on it. And how I can always tell is I look at the seam for the armholes and the seam ends, and I have a band here. So the band is this wide, going all the way around the opening. And when you put it on a person, it'll even fold up a bit into a shoulder, into a collar kind of thing at your shoulder, and bring it in closer. Now it's hard to show on her. Maybe one day I'll wear one of them to show you. I'm always making them, so I'll make another one to show sometime during the winter. Now in this particular one, I also put on a band around the armhole to make a little bit of a sleeve. Not a lot, but a little bit. From there, you can see where it changes. It's a single crochet instead of a double, and it changes direction. But you don't see it a lot because of this fuzzy yarn. I absolutely love latte for snuggling, for cuddly. They'd be great on scarves. I don't tend to make a lot of regular scarves, but it's one of the most comfortable yarns out there. So that's the beginning of putting a band on it, and the band is, can you see it, is about that wide. Bigger person, bigger chested person, I would put a band on it, that would be about that wide at least. Just depends on how big they are, and again, how broad shouldered they are. So another latte one, totally different color, blues and greens. I've actually made, I think, a baby Afghan in this as well. Now, this one has the band on it. Let me find an armhole. It's the only way I can show you. There we go. So this is the side that makes the armhole. I didn't do anything extra to the armhole. There's the side seam, and then it ends there. There's where the seam ends, and there's the band. So this band is a little wider than the one on the last one, going all the way around. So you can choose any stitch you want. Make the rectangle a size that you're happy with. I generally try to do it between 40 and 45 wide, depending if it's a tiny person or a bigger person. Then I do about 29 or 30 up and down. Now again, if you have a very tall person, you might do it a little bit more. If you have a very short person, you would do much less than 30. So you've got 30 from neck down. And then when I put the band on it, and this band I'm going to say is maybe 3 inches, maybe a little more, 3.5. And so that adds height, top and bottom. So this, if I do a 30-inch up and down and I add on 3.5, I've now made it 37. And 37 is a common measurement I've found. But I mean, put on 4 or 4.5 and you can get 38 or 39, because remember, you're putting it to the top and the bottom, so you're doubling whatever this width is. I think the next one I may only make it about maybe 29 high, and put on at least a 4 or 4.5 band, and just see how I like it. The last one I made, which I'll show you in a minute, I just finished one. I made it a little shorter. I was typically making them 45 wide, and I thought maybe that's a little too long in the arms. Not everybody has long arms like me, and maybe they don't want it way down. So I made it 41 or 42. Quite honestly, being just over 40, I wasn't happy with it. I will go back to making it closer to 45 across, and then if it's, I can't see it's going to be too big for anybody other than a tiny person, a person that's a child of the size of a teenager. But anyway, I could have guessed make it an inch or so shorter and put a sleeve in it. I don't typically, by the time I get done, want to fiddle with a sleeve. They are not the most fun thing to add. Okay, so that was another latte. Now, next we have one more in Scarfy. Now this Scarfy is like a blue and gray. Maybe not the prettiest color, but I think great to wear with jeans. Again, I love Scarfy. And this one I, again, added a band. So the sleeve ends, when I stitched up the side seam, it ended here. So you can see I've added a band. Well, I gotta say it's awful close to 4 inches. So that added to the height, and it came around much better. I had this one on the model at one point. In fact, the picture on my Facebook page has this on the model, and fit very nice around here. So that's Scarfy again in a different color. And this one, all I did was put 2 rows. Well, I have a row of single crochets to start, and then I think 1 row of half double crochets, just to put a little bit of trim around the sleeve so it wasn't just plain. And this one, again, this is one I know will do well. Interesting color, pinks and browns with sparkle in it. Can you see the sparkle there? You can see it in the brown. This was a yarn called Shimmery by Lion Brand, and I also bought it in white and black, and I wanted to show it to you, and I can't find it. I don't know, have I used it or I packed it in some box that I can't find it, but I'm almost positive that Lion Brand doesn't carry it anymore. I will look on Lion Brand's site to see, and if so, I will link it in the description box below, but I'm almost positive last time I looked through, I didn't see it. They didn't have a lot of colors. Anyway, again, your rectangle, and I seamed the side. I did not put anything extra on the armhole opening. And there's the seam, and then here is the band, and you can, if you are stitching back and forth across the width of your rectangle, arm to arm, then when you close it up at the sides, you will have your 2 finished edges, the chain line you started with and your last line of stitch, so that when you go to stitch around it, you're stitching right onto it in the same direction. So it doesn't change the way your pattern is going. You can't see two directions. If you want to have a contrast, then you would have to stitch your rectangle up and down, and then when you sew it together, this band would go in the opposite direction of the stripes for the body. And if you want to do that, that'd be fine too. So I made, let's see, it starts here, and I'm going to say it's a little narrower than the last. It's maybe 3 to 3.5 inches wide onto this base. And I know this is one that when I post them on the marketplace, that it will sell, partly because of the colors. And the very first one I showed you, the multicolor, that'll probably be the first one that goes. And finally, just this past week, I got some yarn from Ice Yarns. I got it to do a test for Reggie, but it didn't come in time, and I was too busy, so I didn't get to it. And this yarn from Ice Yarns, there's the colors. It's called Puzzle Baby. Puzzle Baby. And it is the exact same yarn as the puzzle from Premier. I think Reggie even mentioned that on one of her videos. You know, Ice Yarns is a manufacturing company in Turkey that makes for other companies, and they slap their label on it. So you can get a yarn from Hobie that's exactly the same as a yarn from Lion Brand, just has a different label on it, but it's the same yarn, and a lot of the times they have the same colorways. So this one is from Ice Yarn, and it says it's 100% acrylic, and the ball is a sizable ball, had 610 meters. So that's 670 yards. So two of them left me that much left over, a ball that much. Now, this one, if you like bright colors, this wouldn't be one I would want, but I know there are people that love the bright colors. And I have several other puzzle yarns and one more from Ice Yarns as well that I like the colors of better. And again, this one is one where I sewed up the side seam, and this time I put on a very substantial band. That's got to be easily 4 inches, maybe a little bit more. But if you remember, I said I didn't make it as wide. Like, it comes to my elbows, whereas the others were way up to the end of my fingers. So this is going to have to be worn by a smaller person. And then you add the band, so it's nice in the front. And then I put on just 2 rows. I was watching a video by Tamara from Moogly, and she was showing a cocoon she made, and she put a long sleeve in it, and she showed how she put on, and then she put she double crocheted 2 together to make it narrower and kept going. I didn't want to keep going, but I just did enough to bring the cuff in a wee bit to give it a little more of a fit around the arm. So that is the one. I just finished this past weekend. So that is one made with puzzle, and now that I've made it, I definitely will go back and make some more with puzzle yarn, again straight double crochet, and there's lots in 2 skeins of theirs, and I have, I don't know, three different colors that I ordered from Premier, and I have one more from Ice Yarn. So I will make a few of these since I know they're popular. So that's what I have in Cocoons, ready to post for fall sales. People really like these in the fall, so that's what I'm going to do. I have to make a couple more. Now, while I was talking, just a sec. While I was talking, I mentioned some that are my favorites, Latte and so on, are my favorite yarns. And I got thinking, I've seen other YouTubers do this, my top 10 favorite yarns or whatever. And I thought, my goodness, I have a lot of yarns here, but I seem to use the same ones over and over again, even though I have ordered others that I haven't used yet. And I don't think I could come up with my top 10 favorites. So, what I decided to do was issue myself a challenge. So, I got out the calendar, and from today, October 21st, to the end of the year, the last Thursday in the year, there are 10 weeks. So, I thought, okay, how many yarns do I have in the house that I've never worked with? Like, I don't mean a different color of the same yarn. I mean a yarn that I have never ever worked with. For example, I've never worked with Lion Brand Mandala Ombre and Mandala watercolors. I've never worked with them. So I decided to go around the house and find the various different yarns I have never worked with, see how many they are, and then I am issuing a challenge to myself. And it turns out I didn't get every yarn that I've never worked with, but I did manage to make a list of 16 yarns, which I'll show you next week. 16 yarns I've never ever worked with. Some of them well known, Lion Brand, what else? Lion Brand and Sheep G's. I haven't ever used Sheep G's, although I have several. All of these yarns I have from Expression Fiber Arts. I have not used every type of their yarns, so several of them are from them. And so on. So I have 16 yarns I'm going to pull out and show you next week. And there are 10 weeks from now to the end of the year. And I thought, well, what if I could use at least half of these and see what they're like? I can't tell you anything about them if I've never worked with them. So I've set myself a challenge, a goal, you might say, to use at least half of these yarns, 8 different yarns between now and the end of the year, just to see what they're like, if I would use them again, and if some of them make my top 10 list, which I'm hoping sometime next spring I can do a top 10 list for you. So next week I'm going to show you those yarns. And the other thing I'm going to do next week is finish up with the items that I made this summer. I've shown you just about everything I made this summer and into the early fall when I took a break from my usual thing. So I still have a couple of shawls. I have 1 or 2 ponchos, and I have a ruana, which I tried one for the first time this summer, and I do intend to make a few more ruanas. So I'm going to show you those items from the summer that I haven't yet shown you, and I'll show you the yarns, and I'm issuing myself a challenge to use 8 of those before the end of the year, and I'm going to start this week. And so that's what's the plan for next week. So hope to see you then. And until then, happy hooking.